Okay, so I don't know which side of my screen she's actually on, but here she is.
Hello.
Everyone meet Rachel. I tagged her business account, which is Blissful Budget, but this
Mhm.
is Rachel. And she is our newest coachee. So I'm so excited for you guys to meet her, to get to connect with her. We have so much that we want to share with you today. But first, I'm just going to have Rachel tell you a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and to be season three's guest coachee. My name's Rachel Peavy. I have a company called Blissful Budget, where I work with other heart-centered and soul-centered online entrepreneurs to help them get a handle on their finances and make more money, save more money, and pay down debt, which I think we all can definitely use.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a whole conversation about that in a second, but 100%.
I'm sure. And I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am married. I have a daughter, and I'm very pregnant. I am having baby number 2 in September. And we've got a full house. So we have 2 giant Great Pyrenees dogs and a cat. So,
No big deal. Just
yeah,
just a few things to take care of.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
also have another business.
Yes, I do. I am that. Oh, yeah. I'm also a PR freelancer. So I have my own PR consulting business, which has been very, very busy. And we talk a lot about that on the
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
and how to manage and juggle 2 businesses and one that you really want to grow.
Yeah.
So my background is in public relations. I've been doing it for 16 years, but my passion has always been personal finance. So it's been exciting to work with Lacey and really put a lot of love into Blissful Budget.
So good. Hey, Megan. Hey, Amanda. Thank you guys for being here. If you're here, say hi. We're so grateful to you for being here. Something that is really important and interesting. I mean, I think we can all relate on some regard, but one of the things I was so excited about of having Rachel on literally is because of the stuff she just said, which is like she's busy. Like she has a full-time other business. She is very pregnant. She has a small child who's home because of COVID. Like there is just so many moving parts in her life. And like that was something I was really excited to showcase because I think that um that's something I see behind the scenes. I have a lot of clients that I work with that are also moms that have had to make a lot of adjustments because of COVID and everything happening. But even without that, it's still, they've had to like rein in their hours and all of that. So like just being able to bring Rachel on to show that side of the conversation, I think is so helpful and so important. But I also wanted Rachel to be part of it. Hey, Emily, because I really love the mission that she has in Blissful Budget, and I love what she's doing there. I think it's just like not talked about enough in our industry. Like all our industry talks about is like make money, make money, make money, and that's good and important, and like we about the money, but like this whole other side of like, what are you doing with the money you make? How are you managing it? How is it serving you? Because what I have found to be true in my own experience is like I don't have freedom just because I make money. In large part, I have freedom because of how I manage that money.
Yeah.
I mean, in very large part, right? And I think that that's so important. I'm going to actually do a separate live stream on this in a little while, sometime at the end of the month. That Rachel kind of inspired me thinking about this more. Is like when I think about like, yes, my business is giving me so much freedom, but it's because of how I've chosen to spend the money that's come to me from the business that ultimately gives me the freedom. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
You.
totally. Um, and it's so true. Like you can make millions of dollars, but if you don't know how to manage it and if you're not paying attention to it,
Yep.
you have no handle on that, and you don't have the ability to funnel it into the things that make you happy. And so, yeah.
So true. Alicia says, congrats. She's so excited to listen in and continue to learn from you. Alicia, I love you. We know you're such a literally fan. So thank you for being here. So one thing I want to start by sharing Rachel and I both feel super passionate about this. So we want to kind of dive into this, and then we'll give you the scoop on her and the money stuff in a second. But we both are very passionate about making an impact, making a change, and being able to use money to help us do that. Rachel's been putting out a lot of content around like how you can use money as an impactor right now to support Black Lives Matter, to be, in the action of making change. And one of the ways that I am personally doing that is I have donated a full VIP spot to someone else's program. You guys have probably heard me mention her. She's someone I'm learning from a ton. Her name is Louisa Duran. She goes by Lise, if you guys have heard that. And she has a program for Black women and women of color to do like their decolonization work and to process everything that's going on right now and to incorporate it into their lives. And what's so important to me is that I'm not just running out and like doing all this stuff. Like I'm not like making a scholarship and doing this and like trying to like prove anything. What I want to do is contribute money to someone that has already done this work. What I am so clear on is that I need to do even more internal work before I can hold the space for that. And quite frankly, I'll never be able to fully hold the space for, a Black woman that's processing what it's like to be a Black woman in America. Like I'm never going to know that. But what I have learned from the teachers that I have been learning from is that the whole game is internal first, right? Which, by the way, is also business. Like, wait till you listen to Rachel's season, right? You're like, oh, time. Yeah. Whole game is internal first. And so being able to contribute to someone that has been doing this work for years, someone that is a Black woman, someone that can hold the container for that, is so important. Again, I think we all want to like rush to be like, I'll do this scholarship, I'll do this thing. And my question to you is, have you done enough work to do that? I personally have way more to do there before I feel like that's the responsible thing to do. But the thing I can do is use my ability to donate, use the money that I make in this business to make a change. I'm not saying that's nearly enough. I'm just saying like, I think that it can be really easy to want to do all the things. And so just being able to be like, well, I need to do some of my stuff first. But while I'm doing my stuff, I can contribute to someone else who has done that work. I can learn from someone who has been in this for a long time. So what I want to ask you guys that are listening is, and Rachel's going to talk about this for you in a minute, but is any contribution that you can make to that. You do not need to fund a full VIP spot. Although if you're listening and you have a multi-six-figure business and you want to do that, let's talk, because I will be very proud if anyone is willing to match me in that. But like, that's not the whole thing that we're asking. Like if you can give $5, if you can give $10, that makes such a difference. We have a goal of funding 7 spots. And so if I'm bad at math, but like if whatever, 1,000 people gave $5, that's a spot. Like that's, you know what I mean? That's change. That's how we can all make a difference. And so I just will, if you want to contribute, I will put the PayPal link to donate below, or you can message me. I'm a little unsure of how Facebook is going to handle that PayPal link because things have been wild, but I will put it below. I would love for you to join. I will also link the program. It's called Reclaim, and it's by Louisa Duran. So if you're a Black woman or woman of color listening to this, check it out. It is amazing. She is amazing. I'm in a couple of her other programs, and the amount of like space that she holds is like really exceptional. And I'm a picky bitch about that kind of stuff. And I can tell you for sure it's true. And yeah, she's amazing. And if you want to donate, but you want to see what you're donating to and check it out, we'll link that up. It's louisaduran.com. I think it's /reclaim, but I'll make sure to put it here as well. Yes, Maggie says so important to have a plan for the money. Absolutely. So anyway, if you're listening and you want to be part of that, if you want to contribute at all, I would just so greatly appreciate that. And I think that it's one of those things that, it might not be again, you being able to like go out and make this huge, massive change right now, or being able to like be this expert that can solve all the problems, but there are experts that can really, really support this work. And so if we can continue to elevate them and contribute to them, I think that's the best thing that we can possibly do right now as we do our own work. Right? Rachel, you have anything you want to say about that? I kind of went for a while, but we both wanted to share this.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I think your point about doing the internal work also. I mean, I'm one of those people who I thought I knew a lot, and then I've learned that I don't know anything. And so, I mean, there's always something to learn. And I think you're like the fourth or fifth person who has mentioned Louisa Duran, and now I feel very called to go learn more about her too. So, but yeah, I mean, when I feel like money is such a big tool for change, and I'll hear from clients and friends, and they'll be like, well, I want to donate, but I'm in debt, or I want to donate, but I can't donate that much. And it really is, I'm a very big believer in every little bit helps, and donate what you can, wherever you are. And like you said, it's strength in numbers. So if 1,000 people donate $5, like you've got a spot right there. And I think that's really important too. And then there are other ways to donate as well. I remember a couple of years ago, 2016, I was looking for ways to give gifts, but that really mattered and that went towards causes that I really cared about. And so that's another way too, is to sort of see like, well, I'm going to purchase this thing anyway. Is there a Black-owned business I can purchase it from? Or is there a company I can purchase it from that donates money to a cause I care about? And then my third point, which we were talking about right before we got on the call, but we saw this really amazing, scary thing happen when quarantine started and everything shut down. And we saw the power of our money and what it can do for the economy and what happens
when we stop spending
money.
Yes.
And so unfortunately, that impacted a lot of small businesses, but we got a glimpse of how voting with our dollars really does work. And by supporting Black-owned businesses, supporting small businesses owned by people of color, like really spending our money in the places that matter, and discontinuing spending our money with companies that are supporting things that are bad and that we don't agree with, is a really, really powerful tool. And I don't think, we always talked about voting with our dollars before COVID happened, but we got a really great opportunity to see how powerful it really can be, especially in numbers. So, even if you feel like you don't have anything to donate, we're all still spending money. So really being intentional about how you're spending your money and supporting the causes that you care about.
That's so helpful and so true. I think that, I think we all have to come from where we're at. And I think that that's something you teach about budgeting so much too, right? Which is like, you definitely don't have that philosophy of like, eat ramen noodles and be miserable for an eternity until you pay off your debt thing. And this is kind of that, like, I think that, we all have to just be able to be where we're at. Like, I'm in a position where I can fund a larger scholarship. I wouldn't have been in that position maybe before I paid off debt a couple years ago and stuff like that. And so just being able to be like, it's okay wherever you're at, but where you put your money is a vote for something. And that's really the point here. One of the reasons I feel so good about contributing to this scholarship in particular is because it's actually someone I know. Right? It's actually someone I'm also learning from. And it's not going to like some big organization that I'm like hoping does something with it. Like, it's going somewhere that I literally can watch and see the impact of. I had a conversation with someone in our group who's amazing. I think I've shared her on the thread that I had posted, but her name is Grace Casanova. And we talked about what impact in business looks like and what the impact strategy is, and like how where you're donating makes a difference and stuff like that. And we had this whole conversation about spending and donating with like those smaller groups or businesses or whatever, where you can make an even bigger impact with that money and where you know where it's going. And so that's just something I would say too, like how Rachel's saying, like spending money with like Black owned businesses and stuff like that, like especially small businesses, like that impact is so great, right? Donating $10 to a scholarship of someone that you like know or in community with, that impact is so great. So really just want to encourage that. Again, I'll put the links for that. But something I'd love for you to talk about, Rachel, too, is like, what about if you're in debt? Like, are you someone that kind of is like, definitely don't be donating or anything until you're out of debt, or you like do it, but do a little bit? Like, what is that thought process?
Yeah, I say do it. I mean, even if you have debt, you know, you'll hear from some money gurus who are like, stop everything and just put all your money towards your debt. But
I think that's like the most pervasive conversation.
Right.
For sure.
And while yes, you can knock out debt very quickly that way, you also still have to live your life, right? Yeah. And part of that is supporting causes. And I think that is so important. It's not really something you want to put on hold until this date and time down the road that you've got all your debt paid off. And so, you know, I think it's just looking at your money and prioritizing it and saying, okay, well, this much is allotted toward debt, and this much is allotted towards giving. And you can do that with other things in your budget too. I'm also a believer in saving money while you're paying off debt, which I go against a lot of the advice that's out there, like stop saving money and just pay off your debt. But then you sort of get in, stuff happens in life, and you get in a position where you have no savings, and then you end up creating more debt. So yeah, I am a big believer in doing what you can and what feels comfortable and good too. Maybe it's not the time to donate, you know, $2,000 to something, but you know, you can look at your budget and say, okay, I'm comfortable, you know, moving this money towards giving, and then this is what's for debt.
Something I've really learned, again, from the women I'm working with, I'll link them here too, is that this is such a long-term, never-ending game, and it's about being able to run that race, let's say. And so don't feel like, oh my gosh, this is all so intense right now, and so I'm going to give $2,000, but then that means I can't give again for 2 years.
Right.
Like, do a little bit each month, like stay in that action. That's so much better than, like, you know, if you're running a marathon and you burn yourself out in the first 2 miles and then you're like, well, I can't finish the race. So I think that's a helpful way to think about this and contextualize it too. Like, if you just gave $5 every month for the next year, like that might be all that's in the budget, and that's okay. If you gave 100 instead of like throwing 1,000 at it, like that's really, I think, something to think about. And I think that that's probably how you're thinking about money in general, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my husband and I have line items in our budget for the different charitable organizations that we give like $10 or $20 a month to, and we just auto pay. We signed up, we do it. And so it becomes just habit, and it's not like this one big donation. I mean, hopefully someday we'll be in a position where we can give a lot more, but you know, it's something, and it's something that contributes. And one of the organizations sends us a thank you note every month. So then it's like, oh, this does make a difference to them. And even, you know, $10 can make a big difference. So yeah.
So good. Caitlin says she's so excited for you. Thanks for being here, Caitlin. Thank you. So tell us a little bit about like what kind of drove you to create Blissful Budget. We talk a lot about Rachel's like goals and current circumstances and all of that in the intro episode, which, by the way, I don't even think I said this, but it's launching June 24th. So if you guys are wondering about when it's coming out, first episode comes out June 24th. In the meantime, you can listen to the Do the Work series that's on there. You can listen to season 1 or season 2. But Rachel her intro episode will be out June 24th. So we cover a lot in there, but what I don't think we fully went into is like, what is your like big driver behind Blissful Budget? Again, like it's one of the reasons I picked Rachel, because I love how she's thinking about this, and I just want this message out there too. As much as I loved her and want to support her, I'm just so behind her philosophy. So tell us a little bit about like what kind of brought Blissful Budget to life.
Yeah, so a few things. I think we talk a little bit about, I also have a background, I'm a yoga teacher. I've done a lot of studying around sort of that philosophy. I'm also totally woo. So I read tarot. I'm very into like that whole sort of mystical.
She's basically the opposite of Sam. So
Yeah.
Sam would be like, fuck to the no about tarot.
Exactly.
And Rachel's like, pull a card. Let's pull a card.
Exactly.
But it's so perfect because it's like that. It shows that difference, right? Of like, we all have our own philosophies and journeys, right?
We all have our thing. And so, you know, the way
Sam's here.
She's here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, you know, the way I think about money is sort of in two ways. One, it's about the numbers, but it's also a lot about the energetics and about the soulful side of money and the way money makes us feel. And, you know, I think that is a big in mindset around money too. And so I really wanted to bring it all together because as I paid off debt in my 20s using a very popular guru's method, which was very eat ramen noodles and, you know, just deal with it till you get all your debt paid off. And it worked.
Basically, like you should be miserable until you get your debt paid off is the
gist. I was. It was not fun. I did pay off debt quickly. But it didn't really go into why we make money anyway and why, you know, why do we want this debt paid off? And it got me thinking a lot about debt in itself and sort of a lot of the beliefs that we hold around money and the stories that we hold around money. And we all have a money story. We all grew up a certain way, which impacted how we deal with money as adults. Our parents had patterns around money. And so the other piece of this is that money really touches everything. Yeah. And when you're feeling uncomfortable around money, when you're not feeling good about where you are with money, when you're scared to open your bills when they come in the mail, like that really ripples out into everything, into how you're showing up at work, how you're showing up with your family and friends, and you know, the things that you allow yourself to do or don't do. Yeah. And so especially as I moved into more of the entrepreneurial space and started my own business, like it was very apparent that, you know, the way I feel about money really impacts things too. And so I think on one of our episodes we recorded recently, I talk about how I was in the corporate world for many years and I was sitting at a computer and, doing my budget, like our family budget, and realized like this was the happiest I had been in a really long time doing a budget spreadsheet because everyone's like, they're like, she likes spreadsheets. Yeah. So that was sort of where the idea for the business came from. Is I was really looking to leave the corporate world, and I knew I was going to start my own PR business, but then I really just loved figuring it out. It's like a puzzle for me, and started helping friends, and, you know, not just helping them with the practical side of it and the money, but also really diving in deep with them about their mindset around money, about some of those stories, and weaving in tarot into that too has been kind of cool to do and see how that works. And
so that's kind of what I like loved so much about what you're doing, is I feel like you're pulling both sides together, because that's like what I felt like when I first entered the coaching world. Is like back when I started coaching, which was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago at this point. Everyone was like totally on one side of the fence or the other. It was like, it's either like, here are the 3 strategy steps and that's it. And that's all, or it's like it's all mindset all the time. And I feel like what I kind of saw was like, no, it all has to come together. And that's when mindset, strategy, and execution was born. And I just see that so much for you in the budget space, where it's like, it's either like, you follow the budget and it's like really intense and rigorous, and like basically like you are miserable until you pay off the debt, which is like how a lot of business strategy gets framed. Right? Yeah. Or it's all woo all the time, and it's like the mindset is all that matters and whatever. And it's like, my philosophy is that both have to come together. And that's totally the philosophy you've taken around like budgeting and money, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it all works together. I mean, you can have a plan on paper for your numbers, you can have a budget for your money, but if you don't fix or deal with or look at all the other stuff that's simmering under the surface, you're never going to change your habits around money. I mean, I can make a spreadsheet for anybody, but what they do with that is based on all the mindset stuff.
So here's what I see a lot in our space, and I'm curious what you think about this, but I see a lot of people that make the money, but they almost then like put their head in the sand around it. And then the answer to everything is just make more money. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like this addiction in entrepreneurship a little bit, right? Where the answer is always make more, make more, make more, make more. And I get it. Like, I want to keep making more money too. Like, I'm not necessarily vilifying that at all, but I do think that like we're missing the conversation of like, sometimes the answer isn't make more. Sometimes it's like, be a better steward of it, spend it more effectively, have a more, have a budget at all, have eyes on your money. One thing I personally used to do was put my head in the sand around that a little bit. So I can speak to that. And I get that. And I ended up like, something that changed my life was just having my bank text me the amount in my account every day. Mm-hmm. And it's something I still recommend to all my clients, because it's just like, you can't like not look at it. And then you're just like, well, I'll just fix it by making more. It's like that. I mean, that's like, that shift helped me pay off debt so much faster. And I, wasn't miserable doing it. So anyway, tell me a little bit about the like head in the sand, just make more kind of philosophy.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably one of the most common things I see is people just don't want to look at their money. Yeah. And usually when I tell people what I do, they're like, oh, I need to hire you. I hate looking at my bank account and I don't know how much money I have and I don't know where it's going. I know I need to, and so it's so common, and it impacts so much from, the mentality of, oh, I'll just make more. But also, what's the why behind it? Are you making more because you want to, you have some goal you're working towards, why do you want to make more money? Do you think you're in debt, but you don't know because you haven't looked at your money? So how can you answer the why question? And I think that's so important.
It's like with time, like we talk about this and literally Sam's probably like motherfucker. Because I'm like, if anybody listened to season 2, Sam and I had some things around time, but it's like, you have to time track first before we can like set up the really effective schedule sometimes, because it's like, you have to know where your time's getting spent to then decide where you want to spend it, right?
Exactly. You have to know if you're in debt, how much money you have saved, what's on the credit card, all of that stuff, how much is coming in, what your expenses are, before you can then actually say, either I need to be making more money in my business, or I want to because I'm working towards these goals. And otherwise you just don't know. And, one way I describe it is, it's sort of like, it just feels, when you don't look at it, your money, when you have your head in the sand, it's just like everything's scattered. There's this energetic scattering. There's so many unknowns, but once you actually like sit down and look at it, you can kind of gather everything together and say like, okay, this feels good. I now know where to channel this energy.
By the way, if you guys have any questions on money or budgeting, feel free to just ask Rachel right now, since she's here. You might as well. The reason I kind of am moving the conversation in this direction is because I want you guys to meet her, but you're going to get to know a lot of her background in the intro episode. And I feel like this conversation is just so freaking relevant and important. Again, especially now with like everything going on in our world, we're looking at like, where's my money going? What impact is it having? Where am I donating? What am I saving? Are we going to be in a recession? Like all of this stuff. So I think this is just super helpful. So I had something I was going to ask you there. Oh, I was going to say this. So in my Millionaire Makers Mastermind, like one of the examples that I give to them that we talk about a lot is that like, we have to start separating ourselves out from our business. And this means financially too. So it's like, if you're the CEO of a big company, You don't like walk into that company and be like, I need a new car next week, so we got to like make some more money this week. We got to like do it. That would be so weird and almost entirely irrelevant. But that's what we do as entrepreneurs a lot. We're like, ooh, I got to like get this car next month. So I got to like see what program I can launch to make X amount. And it really fucks with your mindset hard. But that happens when you don't have eyes on your own money. You're just like, well, the only answer to get the thing is make more because I have no idea what's going on back here. Right. Instead of like, I totally know what's going on back here. And so I'm going to save X amount until the month that it's time. And it takes the pressure off your business greatly, being able to not make business decisions based on personal financial needs.
Yeah.
That differential is huge. Like when I see my clients get to that point where they can make a business decision just because of business instead of because of personal financial need, their business is so much more successful. But like, you can't put yourself in that position unless you have the money, right? Or unless you have the eyes on the money, rather.
Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, if you have to know, you have to look at it, especially as a business owner. And I'm big on separating the personal and business and making sure those are two separate accounts and that you're paying yourself a paycheck, however, often you work it out. But so that, you're keeping that money separate from the business money, and there isn't that temptation of like, well, I'll just pull from here and buy the car, and it keeps you more disciplined, but it also, I don't know, it does sort of take the pressure off because it's two separate things. It's your business life and it's your personal life. And so I think it's important to have that boundary there and set there. And that way you can make business decisions without, getting too involved in the personal. I mean, I'm doing it right now for myself. I know like, okay, I need to save a certain amount of money each month to go towards covering maternity leave because I'm self-funding a maternity leave. It's great the months that I make more, but I'm still putting the same amount into savings into my maternity leave fund because I've made that plan and I know that this is what, feels good and feels comfortable. So
I think that's just like literally mind blowing if you think about it from that perspective, because think about all the anxieties some people have like going into something like that. And it's like, you just know, like you have a plan. You're like, this is what comes in. This is where the plan goes. This is whatever. And even if the business income fluctuates, that doesn't change. Personally, I really operate in the same way. Again, I'm going to do something on this later in the month, but like my business income fluctuates because it's based on my clients' income, you guys. Like there's always gonna be fluctuations in that. And I'm certainly never gonna suggest that someone launches in a certain month because I want to make more that month. Like that's fucking absurd. So anyway, like I think that it's just so helpful knowing what those buckets are, knowing where that's going, because you can like be chill about maternity leave instead of being in that frenetic, frantic energy, right? Of like, oh my God, I have to make more this month because, or I have to, like, totally different. It's like when you know your strategy, you can chill more in the business, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then it's great because when you have those bigger months, the money's there to cover the months that are not, that might be a little more lean. And so, because you're paying yourself that steady amount and you're sticking to it, it gives you that freedom. And then like any job, you can evaluate at the end of the year, can I give myself a raise, or every 6 months, or however often you do that as a business owner. But, it's more of a business decision to give yourself the raise than like, just, I feel like I want a new purse, so I'm going to pull that from the business budget,
So this is something I want to talk about a little bit before we get off. Which is the debt piece, because obviously, that was a big part of my story. I had like $200K in student loan debt. And like I said at the beginning, how I managed it had a large impact on the freedom I currently have and feel. Like, I think I could have easily spent that money on a lot of other things, quite honestly. I think even like reinvesting in the business, I think can almost become this never ending thing where like sometimes like sometimes a business investment is not always the right investment. Sometimes it does need to go back to the debt. But I think as entrepreneurs, it's almost like so hard to find the like in for our brains to be like, okay, like I'm going to chill for a minute and like really put money towards debt or whatever. But I feel like for me, that gave me so much more freedom not having that, and has allowed me to reinvest way more in my business than I would have if I had it. I'm happy to chat on that more too, but like tell me your philosophy there just so people listening can kind of hear a little bit about that too. Because I think in the coaching space, it's almost like, I feel like a lot, and this is just a very generalized statement, but a lot of the messaging almost feels like you should be traveling, you should be spending, you should be like buying the purse and all that kind of stuff. Or it's like, you should always be investing in the business. And then you kind of can get backed into this corner where it's like, well, when's the time the business pays off all this debt or does all this stuff I need it to do, right?
Yeah. There's a couple of things there. I mean, one is I think it's really important to get clear on what's important to you. You know, what are your priorities? Is it traveling? That's great. Or, you know, is it the purse or whatever? But, or does it feel bad to be carrying around debt, or is carrying around debt keeping you from doing the things that you really want to do? And you know, we have a lot of stigma around certain kinds of debt, especially in the US. For some reason, it's acceptable to go into debt to go to school or buy a house or get a car, but any other sort of debt is deemed bad.
Yes.
And so, you
like,
know,
it's like credit card debt is the devil almost.
Right. Like you're a bad person if you have a balance on your credit card, which I don't believe. And I really believe it's more about how is the debt making you feel? Like, yes, you want to, if you do have credit card debt, it's good to pay it off so you're not accumulating all the interest.
Let me just interrupt you for 1 second though, because I just feel like this is important to say, which is like, and this is why a lot of people don't look at their money, because there's so much shame around it.
There's so much shame.
Right?
Yeah, there totally is. There's shame, there's stories. We start to believe we're bad with money because we've had, you know, have money on our credit card. And so, I mean, there's a lot to deal with and work with, but also just knowing how that debt's making you feel. I worked with a client and she had about maybe $16,000 in debt on a card. Didn't bother her at all though. And I said, well, why don't we make a plan to slowly pay this off? She had just made a huge transition she had shut down a brick and mortar business, was in a big life transition. And I said, look, if this is not making you feel bad right now, then responsibly put money towards it, but funnel your money towards the things to build your new business and to, you know, put a roof over your head and all of that and the things that are filling you up right now. And then we'll address the debt, you know, in more of like a aggressive manner when you want to and when you're ready. And that worked for her. And she did come back to me later and say, okay, I think I'm ready. Can we make a plan to really knock out the debt? But that was a great way to go about it. It didn't bother her. But other people I work with, they have a lot of debt and not even that much debt. I mean, it can be a couple thousand and it's bothering them so much and is weighing on their shoulders. So like, okay, let's address it because it's impacting your quality of life right now and the way you feel and your mental capacity and all of that.
It's so funny that you said that, because I had almost the exact same experience, and I've like found it a little bit hard to articulate sometimes as I've tried to like share it with clients and stuff, but it's almost like it didn't bother me until it did. Like there was like this point where it felt totally fine to have the $200K in loans, and I was like putting a coach on a credit card at that point and like figuring it out, and I wasn't like, oh man, this should go here. It just literally wasn't bothering me and it wasn't my priority. And then there was a time where like that totally changed, and all of a sudden it really felt like a weight, and it really felt like it was holding me back, and it was holding some of my decisions back. And as soon as I like realized it was a priority and recommitted to that, it really happened super, super fast that it got paid down. But it was like, I had to like really get fully behind it. I remember when I was doing other things and not behind it, like my parents would be like, oh my God, this is such a big deal. You need to deal with this, da, da, da. And I just like was like, it's not a thing right now, until it was. And then like, so that was exactly my experience of it that you just said.
I think it's so common. And, you know, we're conditioned or we're taught that we should want to pay it down. But if it's not, if it's not bothering you that much, there also won't be that motivation to do it. Even if I'm telling you, you need to pay it off, or your parents are telling you, you need to pay it off. If there's not the motivation, if that's not the priority, if that's not the goal, then it's not going to get done. And it's also not going to feel that good. You know, it's just going to be this thing that's out there. But when you do want to pay off the debt, then there's the motivation there to get it done, and you can tap into that, and it's more of a goal, and it's something you want to do versus something you feel like you should be doing, which I think with anything, right? If we feel like we're being told to do it, we're not going to do it if we don't want to, if we feel like it's a should versus a want.
Especially as entrepreneurs that have that like rebellious tendency and that value freedom really highly. Like I'm totally like that. Like when someone really thinks I should do something, I'm like, fuck the fuck off. But then when like I want to, it's totally different. So it's like you have to get behind it, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think the big piece is getting really clear on what do you want to be spending your money towards, and is the debt holding you back from that also? And so, you know, because I have a lot of clients, I'll take them through this meditation sometimes that helps them like prioritize things and get really clear on what's important to them. And then we take another look at their budget and say, okay, here's the list of things you came up with after this meditation. What on this budget doesn't make sense anymore? Like, what are you putting money towards because you think you should versus you really want to? Because we have that too. Like we get all the messages of, as an entrepreneur, you should want to travel and buy Louis Vuittons and, you know, spend money here and there, but which is great if that's what's really important to you. But if you really like being outdoors and want to spend all your time hiking, then, you know, going shopping might not be the thing for you. So it's sort of prioritizing.
Well, I think we can almost get brainwashed like we do in corporate, like where we think, oh, what I want is that next promotion, and what I want is that next thing, and what I want is whatever. And it's like, but do you? Because like I thought I like wanted all of that, and then when I got it, I was like, this shit sucks. So I think that that's a little bit of it too, where like it can be easy to just get really caught up in the messaging of this industry or what you're seeing. And if you can like actually spend the time to take a step back and reprioritize, like it's so interesting. Like, you know, I'm constantly surprised how this industry doesn't talk more about like, hey, this business can pay down your debt kind of thing. You know, like that's one of the best things that this business did for me. And so, but that's not the primary message. And so it's interesting because it's like, then we almost think, well, like I shouldn't want to do that. And what you're really saying is like, you can do whatever you want to do, but are you asking yourself the right question?
Right. Definitely. You know, it goes back to the why of, you know, why we're in a business to make money. What are we going to do with it? Why are we making this money? And so, you know, getting really clear on what's really important to each individual, I think is so powerful, especially because we do grow up with all these messages of like, oh, you should want a big house and a car and, you know, all this stuff that, you know, not everybody, like, I don't want a 64-room mansion. I don't want to clean that. Like, I'd like a nice little beach house. But
yeah, totally. Like everyone wants what they want, right?
Right. So, you know, it's just getting clear on what those goals are and not getting caught up in what you feel like they should be, because everybody's goals are going to be different.
So good. You guys can see why I picked Rachel, because I feel like you have a very similar philosophy around money to what I have around business. And so again, like just was so excited to be able to help you. But I also think that, and again, you'll get to hear this on June 24th when the first episode comes out. But I think one of the reasons that I'm so excited for Rachel to be on here is because she also really brings a lot of the mindset conversation to LITerally too. Like she's been super open and honest about all of that. Like that's the one thing you guys know that I like drill into people that come on. LITerally, you saw Monica just be completely open, Sam be completely open, and Rachel has been no different, but her life just looks different. Like her 2 businesses look different. Her having a kiddo at home and being pregnant looks different. So you're going to see that really cool aspect, but it's so helpful for you to hear this aspect too of like this is why we want to get that message out there. This is why she wants to build Blissful Budget. So follow Rachel. You could drop your link for your social?
Yeah, I'll drop all my social in the comments, and it's blissfulbudget.com. I'm on Instagram as Budget Blissful, which is confusing that somebody took the name and I just haven't felt like finding it yet.
Okay, so a bunch of stuff is coming at you guys. Rachel is going to drop her links. I'm going to put the links of the women that I'm learning from that I mentioned. I'm going to put the link for supporting any amount you can give to the reclaim spots. If it's $1, like, thank you. Seriously. If you want to match us and support more, that would be amazing. If you have questions about it, reach out to me. Please do not, this is important. Please do not reach out to Weeze. If you have questions, reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I will get you the answer, but please do not reach out to her. She has a lot going on. She had Facebook like ban her account. It's a whole thing. It's awful. But one of the things we can do is continue to give our support in that direction. And what other link was I going to drop? I think that's it. June 24th. Rachel's amazing. You guys probably already love her. You're going to love her so much on the podcast, but please make sure to support her as well, because she's obviously doing all of us a service by being part of this and letting us see her journey. So Rachel, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. And thank you for being our coachee. I'm so grateful to you.
Definitely. I'm so excited. We get really real, so it'll be fun.
It's true. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. We hope you have a good week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.